Okay, so when I pulled the action screws, well, first off, the magazine does not fit. I mean, this MDT magazine, if you look on the back there, it is a 3715. Just, I don't know if it's that mag, because when I take my Accurate Mag 3715 with my 280 Ackley, it actually goes into this mag well a lot smoother, easier. There's one thing that I'm going to show you that I'm concerned about. I'll get to that in a second. But the action screws themselves were barely above finger tight. It did not take anything to break them, which they need to be around, I would assume, 65 inch-pounds. There's the action screws. And so one thing that I'm concerned about, if I can get it to focus, is if you look on this side, these mag stops are flush on this side. This side, if I can get it to focus, is not flush. So I'm assuming those just pull straight up and out. I'm gonna have to look into that and see. Maybe that's causing the hang on the mag. That could be causing some issue. I don't know that it would be causing the issue with the accuracy. Okay, in this part here, you can see there's some annular tool marks. That's from the manufacturer. There were some weird lines in the beginning there. This is where the end of the cartridge would meet into the chamber. These are the lands and grooves where they begin, the throat area. There's a small amount of carbon fouling, but nothing too severe. The finish in this is a little different than I'm used to seeing, but I think that's just because it's a Remington hammer forged barrel. You can see there's really not much fire cracking at all in this image here. Now we'll go down the barrel. And there's a little bit of carbon on those lands, but nothing too crazy. I'm just looking for anything extremely out of the ordinary that would be obvious to indicate it's causing some accuracy issues. Little stuff like that I don't think is going to affect anything, especially where it's down. It's not toward the end of the muzzle. Those little green colored marks, that's just copper that's had some moisture on it, that it's could be just from sitting through the winter or however you stored it the last time. That marking there, that dark marking going down that land, that's copper. That's copper right at the end there. And then taking a look at the crown just to make sure there's not anything obvious there. Obviously, it's not clean. We'll get to the cleaning part of it, but I just wanted to see if there was anything up front. Next, I'm not implying or saying that this trigger was installed incorrectly, but after noticing that you have to remove the pins and everything through the action, I do have a concern that anybody could install it incorrectly, and that very well could cause accuracy problems. But I'll look at that and then we'll go from there. After looking at this magazine, I can see there are some rub marks right there, and then some major rubbing right there. Those are definitely the hangers or the magwells, the magazine stops that are inside the magwell that are causing that. At first I wondered maybe this magazine was bent. It could be slightly, but I'm going to chalk it up to this is a 300 Win magazine, and I'm hoping that's what's causing the hang up, versus when I put my 30-06 magazine in there, it went in, which would be a narrower case. Okay, so you can use a jag like this. These are for J. Dewey rods. I run a 44-inch Delrin coated, which will not allow impregnation in your bore. If it'll focus, doesn't really matter, I guess. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, and then because I don't monkey around and spend hours on hours waiting for end results, I use these VFG pellets, and then I will use get it here. Wherever it went. Oh, it's right there. Sorry. 1 second. I use this Ioso bore paste. It is a proven method for cleaning bench rest rifles, and many other rifles for that matter. It works. I'll show you the results. Okay, I got the VFG pellets on. Let's get you to focus there. And you can see a little dab of the Ioso bore paste. I'll put that on this on these pellets. And I soaked the pellets with Wipeout. That's what I use for cleaning. That way when they go in the bore, they've got some wet lubricant in there to start the process. Your bore was not carbon fouled by any means. It does have some copper fouling at the end, which I'll get out in a second, but that's how we do that. And let's see, what else was I going to say? I also removed your muzzle brake with the crush washers in order, so that in the event that you want to put it back on, you can. I need to shoot it without any of that. I have another brake that I can put on to try if I go that route, but I want to verify that the actual rifle shoots first. I did discover one major problem, which I would consider a problem. When you get to assembling this portion, this particular lock, the way it locks onto the base part of the chassis, it's not a positive lock. It does have an actual detent ball right there that engages in a stop, but the problem was you could grab this and literally rattle it. And anybody who knows precision accuracy, your rear bag or your rear support is crucial. Right off the bat, the two things that I would suggest that were the problem were the action screws were not tightened to 60 inch-pounds, which is recommended for this chassis, as well as that being loose. So I'm not sure how I'm going to navigate that with. I do have another stock, but I'll have to pull my daughter's barreled action out of that. I'm not sure if I want to do that. I might just try it without it first after I do all the cleaning and everything, and we'll go from there. Okay, next I'm going to actually measure what your twist rate is. So I've put a piece of tape here, and I will measure from the insert on my cleaning guide to the tape, and then we'll measure 1 full revolution. So I've got it pushed up where it's touching the rifling right now, and we're sitting at, we'll just say 20, you could say 24, but it's probably closer to 23 7/8. So I'm gonna 23 7/8. I'm going to mark the vertical position on the tape. So when I see 1 full revolution, we'll measure the distance. Okay, so that was 1 full revolution. Mark is back to vertical, and we got probably, let's see which way my camera's looking here so I don't screw this up. Okay, we got pushed in 1 full revolution. Mark is back to vertical. We're going to call it 13 1/4. Let me do the math. Okay, so the math, believe it or not, I don't know what it's advertised at, is actually 10 5/8 to 1. So that means your twist rate is 10 5/8. It's not actually 10, it's greater than 10. So any projectile over what the bullet manufacturer recommends, which I would assume, I don't know how heavy of bullets you've been shooting, but I probably would not shoot over 190 grain bullet out of this particular barrel. So I do have some bullets that I'm going to load. Anything like the 120 to 150 to 190 range would probably be good. I'll have to see what I have, and we'll go from there. Those are the excuse me, the VFG pellets after scrubbing the bore. I'm going to patch it out real quick, and then we'll video that and see what it looks like now. Okay, those are the goofy marks that I was talking about in the front of the, it'd be the shoulder neck junction of the chamber itself. I'm not sure if that's some machining issues or if there was like some debris or dirt on the cases when they got loaded into the chamber. Those annular tool marks I talked about earlier, you can see they're nothing to worry about. Now you're at the end of the cartridge case neck where it meets into the free bore or throat area of the rifle. This was all, it cleaned up pretty good. You'll see, I'm just seeing if there's any weird wacky things. There is that one score line there, but it's probably not enough to impede anything. Now you get into these lands, and you can see, I'm surprised at how many rounds you told me you thought you'd shot through this and how little fire cracking there is. That's pretty good. Just checking to make sure I'm not missing anything in there. Head down the bore here. You can see those VFG pellets with the ISO bore paste really cleans things up. It also, it takes the sharp corners off anything or kind of polishes things up. You don't want to go too crazy with it. Just enough to get all the garbage and buildup out of there. Traveling down the bore. Everything looks really good. Just a little bit, maybe a tiny bit of copper left there. not really enough to worry about for what we're doing. Sometimes you can spend a lot of time trying to get just that little tiny thing out of there too. After cleaning up, the crown looks, looking at the crown again, the crown looks really good. I definitely don't think this was a factory crown job. Okay, this is the second scrub. You can see I went a little more on that one. I didn't get the result that I was expecting. This is a hammer forged barrel, so it could be a little harder than your typical button rifled or cut rifle. Definitely probably harder than a cut rifle barrel, but we'll bore scope now and see what the result is. Also, I want to point out that I'm using a 300 Win Mag bore guide, so everything going into the action is completely centered with the cleaning rod and all the stuff. The patches will all go through good. Okay, now we're going to get on to the last bore scope. Hopefully this is the last one. Okay, that's the black part's the end of the bore guide where I said it meets the shoulder to the neck junction of the case itself, the cartridge case. I don't know what those marks are. I've never seen them in any of the ones I've bore scoped. This was the last attempt at using the IOSO bore paste and the VFG pellets. I wanted to try and see if I get a little bit better clean out of there. You can see it's a little shinier in the spots where it has a little more pressure, but I don't know whether the bore diameter in the grooves is larger than typical, but it all cleaned up good. I don't see any issue with any of that stuff. You can tell it definitely got it a lot cleaner this trip. But not seeing anything out of the ordinary. Definitely looks good and clean now. Got the rest of that copper out. Excuse me. So I want to point out that your lugs are galled a little bit. You could probably take care of that with some lapping compound, but that, if I get this thing to focus, should not look like that. I've cleaned it off. This one definitely has a score mark right there, you can see. When I put this back together, I'll make sure and lube it, but that is another accuracy concern. I'm going to inspect that bright spot right there on the 4:30, 5 o'clock side right there. Make sure it's not protruding a lot. If it is, I'll deal with that. But just to give you a heads up, that's some other stuff going on with this particular rifle. When you get a brand new rifle, you need to clean the bore before you ever shoot it, and you need to make sure that you are lubing these lugs. I prefer a lightweight grease. You can try with a lightweight oil. I think it will increase the break-in time, but you can also potentially gamble with things galling because there's not enough lube there. This takes several hundred rounds to break in without lapping the lugs first with a graphite lapping, actual valve lapping compound that they use to do this. One other quick thing that needs to be addressed for anybody watching is that there is a lot of excess oil in this action. Now, maybe this is how he's put it away for the year, which is a good thing, but that means you've got to tear it completely down and go through all of this stuff and clean all the excess oil out of everything. Some guys will just run it and it's okay, but if you're expecting top tier accuracy, you need to make sure that you're addressing these kind of things. When you oil things, it's just little bits, not a lot. It just needs frequency, not quantity. Okay, I'm gonna try and get a shot down in here. I don't know if I'll be able to get it or not. Just the way my camera's gonna focus. But if you can see right there, there are two different imprints. One is lower. On the right hand side, it's basically at about a 50 or 60 degree angle pointing to the left. And then there's one about 2/32 above it, pointing the same direction. That right there indicates to me that this action was loose in this base. Also, with the shiny rub mark, if you torque this action in there correctly, there shouldn't be anything but like a imprint on the paint. And let's see if I can find somewhere that would look like that. Like right up here, it still looks loose. Like this, the receiver was loose in the action. You shouldn't have. It should look more like right there where the center of the focus is. That indicates to me it's been loose and rubbing. It's almost like you were taking just a wear mark. So to be noted, it's shiny. Even I'm not going to get it focused in there, but I can look in there and I can see that it's shiny down in there. This has been loose. Okay, I needed to add something when I was describing where I was talking about those marks. It's on the rear tang, where the tang mounts to the action screws holding it in there, as well as up in here. So essentially, the action not being torqued down tight enough with the recoil and of the ignition of a cartridge is allowing some vibration in there. It's not, I don't want you to think of it in there slopping around loose, but that whipping recoil that comes back is enough to allow that to move back and forth if it's not torqued properly. Okay, one more thing. I got the rifle all back together. I actually had a scope off. I took it off my daughter's rifle that was just enough to clear. But this joint, when you look right here, this lever has the D10 ball that I talked about. When you lock that into place, latch it like that. This is the first thing that I noticed when I got this rifle in my truck this morning. I can't let go to continue filming, but it's loose. And one of the known things to accuracy is how solid your rear base needs to be. Like, I use a sandbag. I'm going to use a sandbag when I shoot this. Hopefully, I can't put a cheek weld on there. I had to take the cheek weld off because my rings aren't tall enough to be able to utilize the cheek piece. So I'm just going to be free cheek weld. I'm hoping that this will group at least 1.5 MOA. From what I've seen after cleaning it and actually torquing everything down and putting it back together, the mag's loose now. I took the stops out. It feels way better. I got some lube on there. Everything, from my indication, this rifle should group at least 1.5 MOA with the hand loads that I did. 72 grains of IMR 4831 with 150 grain soft point Hornady boat tails. It's just some shit that I had. I threw together. I don't have any ammo to go buy it. I'm not going to go buy any ammo at the store. This gun should group 1.5 with that ammo or less. We'll see in just a minute. Also, one more thing to note with this rifle is I took the brake off. I've spoke to several gunsmiths and talked to them in depth about brakes and things. I don't know who turned this. I don't believe this barrel comes threaded like this. I'm not doubting their ability to thread. It looks like a decent crown from what I can gather. It does have, I couldn't get that last little bit of carbon off there. But at least right on the rim face, it's come on, there we go. It's clean on the rim face, so everything should be good. I want to eliminate any variables. So I took the brake off. We'll deal with the recoil. Okay, I'm all set up. Bagged in the rear, bagged in the front. When I get there, I'll be off the recoil lug, or I mean off the sling stud. I'll go a little bit forward. I set that up for some recoil there. The Super Sniper SWFA 10x42 fixed power. This little guy right here is way loose and I'm still getting rattle out of the stock. I can't get it to go any tighter. Lab radar, target over there. We're in the backyard. We'll send it, see what we got. Okay, so the first shot hit the dirt right there, and then I went the wrong direction on the scope and it hit over there. After I adjusted that and got back where I should have belonged, the third shot, which would have still been a fouling shot, was right there. My next adjustment, I made 11 minutes up and 1 minute left. That's those two shots I was aiming at that point there, which is actually a respectable group for what we got going here. Then I changed point of aim. Now remind you that this is a 300 Win Mag with a smaller diameter. It's not a featherweight barrel, but it's not like a Sendero. It's smaller than that. So then I'm aiming center, and I sent 5 shots. Oh, so there's number 5 right there. Now I know where number 5 went. These 4 shots I would blame on the stock. That joint between the butt stock and the base stock, I'm going to put the majority of the blame on that because of that group right there. And also then the barrel heated up. So those 2 shots there were the first 2 following those 2, or maybe that one and that one. But either way, they're, you know, like I said, what did I say? 1.5 MOA, that's it's about a 2.5, maybe a 2-inch MOA. We'll give it a 2-inch MOA. But I was close. But considering that I've got at least 4 inches of slop when I hold the reticle on target at 100 yards and I jostle the stock the way that it moves with that joint, I can literally get 4 minutes. So 4 inches of difference. There's no way this gun is going to group until that problem is solved. The bore was clean. These are part of the fouling shot, not that one, but these 2 are part of the fouling shots, and the other 2, well, a total of 4 there. But we get into this group of 5, and then we get this flyer way up here. Now, this is just Winchester brass. Actually, they were 5 rounds that I had charged or primed, but all of them were a little hard on the bolt to seat, so they're not sized to this action. They came out of my Savage 300 Win. They still shot. These are 150 grain Hornady soft point bow tails with 72 grains of IMR 4831. There were no pressure sign. The first one had a pressure sign, a little bit of ejector swipe. None of them had hard bolt lift, but that one had a little bit of ejector swipe. The rest of them were good. They all came out fine, no problems. So I think my next move would be to have MDT warranty the chassis, or at least the butt base interface.